I've seen that one.
Poor
Like
Matt Farah.
recently?
Can we talk about him just real quickly? He's
Yeah,
still
let's
not
talk.
in his. We're just everything is we're in a holding pattern until he gets his certificate of approval or whatever, occupancy, whatever you have to get
Man,
from
that
the
sucks.
city.
Because that thing was
So I've
supposed
got
to
a
be open
closet
this
full of
spring.
gear here, and we've got a bunch of stuff to
Ah,
pick up, and he's got people like painting, doing whatever work they could do, but he can't move into the spot
oh,
yet, so we can't build the studio. The
you
room is
gotta.
built, it's done, it's painted, the shades are on the walls, the TV's hung, you know what I mean? But we can't move lights or any equipment or
Oh
set stuff or
man, that
furniture. Can't move any of that
sucks.
stuff in.
That sucks.
Di- Quickly though, I meant to talk about this earlier, and then this will be the last thing if that's all right.
Yeah,
I
I
wanted
got
to
all the
say
time in the
very
world, but yeah.
quickly, huge thanks to Spike Feresten who came up to Breakfast Club the other day, and he brought his son Jack, which was very very cool. And I just wanted to say, I think I told you this off the air, but he never knew the microphone story, and it through talking about him and his podcast and a studio that he may be building in the future, stuff like that. Through talking about all that stuff, I joked about the desk and he joked about the set, and I started telling him the microphone story, and one thing led to another, and after a half an hour, there's a circle of people standing at Newcomb's and listening to this story, and and after he heard it and everything, it was rather. I think I don't know if I told you or not. He's like, somebody's going to write that. He's like, somebody's going to write this story. I'm going to tell Jerry. So that would
That's
that would not
awesome.
suck. That would not suck.
Please do. Yeah.
But what occurred to me after he had left, we were Mrs. Ryan. I think I told you, not been walking so well, so we're literally sitting on the ground in this
Hmm.
circle in at Newcomb's, and I realized I looked at her and I said, it was about 5 years ago. Spike Feresten was the first person I wanted to tell that story to.
Hmm.
And I went to tell him at Malibu, and I started to one day, and he was he had no idea what I was about to say, and I
Hmm.
was also totally. You saw me when I told the story on the show. Imagine a year prior to that, like the
Oh, I couldn't
nerves
even.
and the kid who didn't have his shit together was all
I
back.
couldn't imagine.
So he basically sort of almost made fun of me and kind of got me to shut the hell up and go
Yeah.
away.
Go back to your table.
No, he was very polite and everything, but it made me, because I was not strong enough at the time or
Yeah.
whatever. I don't know, because you saw how I regressed during that time and everything. So I became the little kid again, and I was like, I don't know how to get through. So whatever, that was no big deal. But what I was saying to Mrs. Ryan was, boy, 5 years ago that, and I go, now his kid knows who we are. Because the kid knew Yellow Car, and I was like,
It's amazing. It's really
now we're on the
cool.
radar. Okay, well, whatever it takes.
That's
It's pretty
awesome.
funny.
I
But
still think
huge thanks to
he's a.
Spike for coming up to Breakfast Club. That was super cool. Bringing Jack. Hope to see you again. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Got to get
It,
once
it
all
was
this
just, it
COVID
was one of
stuff
those
goes away.
weird moments where you have the realization of like, oh, that's really funny. And
Well,
and it wouldn't have happened had you not had we not done this work, and not like there's anything make it sound like all the breadcrumbs are there for Spike and Jerry Seinfeld to write our story.
right.
Not saying that, not saying that.
Right.
But do you know what I'm saying? It went
I
from me
do.
not being able to tell him to a couple of years later him asking me about it.
What's cool about that is that that story got told at Newcomb's as opposed to the Malibu Kitchen. That for me is
Oh,
what's
that's
cool.
funny. It never even
I
occurred
like
to me.
that. Yeah,
I'm not a
like
turf guy,
almost
so it
like
never really. I mean, you know what I mean. We don't
no, but
own
just
turf.
the.
It's not our thing.
But I think that was a cooler setting to hear that story probably than like a crowded Malibu Kitchen where people are taking pictures and selfies and whatever else. Like it's just you guys on the mountain in
He
your
was so cool,
zone
man.
in your happy place. I'm sure he loved
I
that it wasn't crazy, and that's probably a nice departure from the norm for him, I would think too. And it's
I
such a
don't
beautiful
really
drive
know,
up
but
there.
it's funny that you mentioned that stuff because he did say a couple of those things. He first of
Hmm.
all, he was, so you started this, like, kind of surprised. I was like, well, we didn't really
Hmm.
start it. I was like, my wife and I started coming to breakfast, and then we started doing it regularly, and then we started posting about it, and 3 years later, here this
Yeah,
is.
yeah. Here we are.
And he was like, well, this is great. And I was like, actually, this is kind of a medium light turnout, because there was only like, I don't know, 10 or 12 cars, 15 cars, something like that. And he was like,
Probably
no,
why he
this is
thought it was
perfect.
great.
This is exactly, it's
Exactly,
about the drive
exactly.
and
Yeah,
getting away, quite frankly. And not
yeah.
from people,
I
but getting away from the world, from the noise, from life.
yeah.
In the
I
weirdest
talked
way,
to him
you get to
briefly
kind of
on
escape.
Yeah, I talked to him briefly on Instagram the other day because I had pitched him a couple of those 906s, when they were coming on the market. I was like, "Hey, I know it's a replica, it's probably not your thing, but these cars are going to be available if you guys are interested." And so I talked to him after he had seen my buddy's 906, last weekend or whatever. He was like,
Right.
he's like, that car looks so cool. He was like, and he's like, tell your buddy that won the day at Malibu. I was like, that's really
It
cool.
did.
Like he was really excited about that. So I thought that was neat. But he said that the drive up to Newcomb's was glorious in the GT2 RS. He said that was like just such a, because it's not his normal route. I'm sure he usually takes the Malibu canyons or whatever, but it's something new for him to try with the
And I don't know
GT2
which way he
RS.
came, but if he took 9 Mile, I mean, he really might have opened it up a little bit too, which you can't even do. There aren't even canyons in Malibu where you could open that car up.
I would imagine not, but
Kitty Cam, COVID, Petrolicious. Oh no, there is one more thing, but I'm not going to tell it here. I had always, but I do want to tease it here because I'm hoping maybe Spike can help us with this. I had, since I was a kid, always heard a story. Not always. One time I heard this story, and I'd always been trying to find out if it were true. I can't remember if I read it. I can't remember if I heard it. I don't know who I would have heard it from. I must have read it because I was still living on the East Coast. This is like 97, 98. Must have been after 98, like when Seinfeld went off the air. Something happened, and Jerry has a story that is not dissimilar to me and my Letterman microphone story.
really,
There's a story, yes. And I said, hey, I always heard this story. And I said, blah, 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 blah. Did this happen? And
hmm
I saw Spike's eyes roll back. Like I saw him remember it all. Like, yeah, that did happen. And he started telling me a story, and it was very similar. And he goes, no, wait, that was another time. This one was, and he went on and he told me this whole story. I don't want to waste it here because it's not my story. Also, I don't have the details right as if one of them were telling it. But, I would love to. I implore, please, Spike Feresten and or Jerry Seinfeld, please come tell us that story, and or at least Spike, get Jerry to tell the story on your show so that we can all hear it. It's I don't know if I should just say it. Spike knows what it is. There's a thing, and it's very similar. We'll call it the intercom story, the microphone story, the intercom story.
now I'm
How's that?
intrigued. I want,
Is that
yeah, I
saying
want
it
to hear
without
it
saying
now.
it?
Yeah, I would say
Great,
so.
perfect,
Yeah, you didn't give anything away. No spoilers there.
beautiful. Well, because to me it's quite entertaining, but I don't know if it's only entertaining to me because of my history, or if it would be entertaining to other people. I think it's very,
Well,
very interesting.
there's one way to find out.
I also asked Spike, I said, I always heard Jerry had the front door wall from the Seinfeld set. Is that true? And he's like, yeah, I think, I don't know if he still has it because he might have given it to the Smithsonian, but I think so, yes. I was like, that's cool.
Wow, that's cool.
So it's weird.
Wow.
Jerry also has a little bit of the Merv Griffin set in a little tiny weird way.